would like to invite our panel to come out, please. We are the Nashville Shakespeare Festival. Our mission is to educate and entertain the Mid-South community through professional Shakespearean experiences. So we are a small and mighty company. Today we have the entire company. It's all hands on deck to do this presentation for you today. This is Robert Marigza. He is our operations manager and producer. He did his first show with the Nashville Shakespeare Festival in 1994. So he's been with us all of his whole life. Deann Armstrong is a scholar with Vanderbilt University. Yes, I believe bios are in your programs as well. Next is Nettie Kraft. She is our education director. She is a teacher and actor with the Shakespeare Festival and the world. And we are so grateful to her. And Ricky Chick Marquardt is our development director. Again, we are just so grateful. Through the lobby, you might have seen Erin McGinnis, who is our marketing associate, and then we have one more person who's not with us today, who is our stage manager and accountant. So this is us, and we are thrilled to be here. So this little company, this little professional theater company, has been around for 26 years. My phone is ringing, sorry. Let me, June, are you here? It might be June calling me. Let me silence that. We've been around for 26 years, and what we're going to do in this time today is share with you some of what we've been doing here in Nashville, Tennessee. So in 1988, a group of actors decided they wanted to do Shakespeare in the Park, and they did. They used their own clothing for costumes. They brought lawn chairs for a set. They pulled their cars and trucks up and turned the headlights on when they needed illumination after it got dark. They did Shakespeare in the Park. It was just sheer will, pun intended, and the company was born. So here we are, 20-some years later, and almost 500,000 people have seen live performance of Shakespeare's works here in Nashville. That is, it's a thrill to us to be able to do this. We add about 20,000 people per year with our programming to that number that is growing every year, and we're just thrilled about that. Hundreds of families have made Shakespeare in the Park, which is our main event, an annual tradition, and we see about 800 people a night come to see the play. We have all professional actors, and oh yeah, there's some of the 800 there at the Centennial Park Band Show. So we are just thrilled to be there. There is no barrier to this show. We offer interpreted performances for the deaf community. We accommodate the blind and seeing impaired. We have special parking if you need it. I will help you with your blanket if you need help laying it out. It's our mission to make sure that everybody who wants to see Shakespeare performed can do it. There is no admission charge, and even the $10 suggested donation that we have is very, very reasonable. So we are just thrilled to continue this tradition of Shakespeare in the Park. I have brought a little taste of last summer's show with me today. We have some actors to perform. We did As You Like It this past summer. I set the show in the Great American Depression, because I see that play as a story about people who find their strength in the face of adversity and find their love through the arts, music and poetry and storytelling. So we didn't have, we didn't bring the set, we don't have costumes, we don't have props today, because really what makes Shakespeare Shakespeare is the language, and having terrific actors to perform it for you is really what the whole gist of who we are is about. So today we have Emily Landham, who will be playing the courageous Rosalind, and Amanda Card is playing her charming cousin Celia. Nat McIntyre played both of their fathers last summer. He played his own brother, Duke Frederick, as well as Duke Sr., and today he'll be the irascible Duke Frederick. So in this scene from As You Like It, we've already met, it's toward the beginning of the play, but we've already met Rosalind and Celia, and we see that Rosalind's been really depressed because of the banishment of her father by his brother, Celia's dad. And, but this scene takes place just after Rosalind has met the love of her life, Orlando, at a wrestling match. He is wrestling, and things seem to be looking up for her. So this is Emily Landon, Amanda Card, Nat McIntyre in As You Like It.
Okay. Why, cousin? Why, Rosalind? Cupid have mercy, not a word.
Not one to throw at a dog.
But is all this for your father?
No, some of it is for my child's father. How full of briars is this working day world?
Come, wrestle with thy affections.
Oh, they take the part of a better wrestler than myself.
Oh, a good wish upon you, but let us talk in good earnest. Is possible, on such a sudden, you should fall into so strong a liking with old Sir Rowland's youngest son?
The Duke, my father, loved his father dearly.
Doth it therefore ensue that you should love his son dearly? Mm-hmm. By this kind of chase, I should hate him, for my father hated his father dearly, yet I hate not Orlando.
No, Faith, hate him not for my sake. Let me love him for that, and do you love him because I do? Look, here comes the Duke.
With his eyes full of anger.
Mistress, dispatch you with your safest haste, and get you from our court.
Me, uncle.
You, cousin, within these 10 days, if that thou beest found so near our public court as 20 miles, thou diest for it.
I do beseech your grace. Let me the knowledge of my fault bear with me. Never so much as in a thought unborn did I offend your highness.
Thus do all traitors. Let it suffice thee that I trust thee not.
Yet your mistrust cannot make me a traitor. Tell me whereon the likelihood depends.
Thou art thy father's daughter. There's enough.
So was I when your highness took his dukedom. So was I when your highness banished him. Treason is not inherited, my lord, or if we did, derive it from our friends. What's that to me? My father was no traitor.
Dear sovereign, hear me speak.
Aye, Celia, we stayed her for your sake, else had she with her father ranged along.
If she be a traitor, why so am I. We still have slept together, rose at an instant, learned, played, ate together, and wheresoever we went, like Juno's swans, still we went coupled and inseparable.
She is too subtle for thee, and her smoothness, her silence, her very patience speak to the people, and they pity her. Thou art a fool. She robs thee of thy name, and thou wilt show more bright and seem more virtuous when she is gone. Then open not thy lips. Firm and irrevocable is my doom, which I have passed upon her. She is banished.
Pronounce that sentence then on me, my liege. I cannot live out of her company.
You are a fool. You, niece, provide yourself. If you outstay the time, upon mine honor and in the greatness of my word, you die!
Oh, my poor Rosalind! Whither wilt thou go? Wilt thou change fathers? I will give thee mine! I charge thee, be not thou more grieved than I am.
I have more cause.
Thou hast not, cousin. Prithee, be cheerful. Knowest thou not the Duke hath banished me, his daughter?
That he hath not.
No, hath not. Rosalind lacks then the love which teacheth thee that thou and I am one. Shall we be sundered? Shall we part, sweet girl? No. Let my father seek another heir. Therefore, devise with me how we may fly, whither to go, and what to bear with us. And do not seek to take your change upon you, to bear your griefs yourself and leave me out. For by this heaven, now at our sorrows pale, say what thou canst, I'll go along with thee.
Why, whither shall we go?
To seek my uncle in the forest of Arden!
Alas, what danger will it be to us, maids as we are, to travel forth so far? Beauty provoketh thieves sooner than gold.
Well, I'll put myself in poor and mean attire, and with a kind of umber smirch my face. The like do you, so shall we pass along and never stir assailants.
Were it not better, because that I am more than common tall, that I did suit me all points like a man? We'll have a swashing and a martial outside, as many other mannish cowards have that do outface it with their semblances.
What shall I call thee when thou art a man?
I'll have no worse a name than Jove's own page, and therefore look you call me Ganymede. Ha! Well, what will you be called?
Something that hath a reference to my state. No longer Celia, but Alien.
But, cousin, what if we essayed to steal the clownish fool out of your father's court? Would he not be a comfort to our travel?
He'll go along o'er the wide world with me. Leave me alone to woo him. Let's away and get our jewels and our wealth together. Devise the fittest time and safest way to hide us from pursuit that will be made after my flight. Now go we in content to liberty and not to banishment.
It was a real delight, and it's nice to remember that sweet show. Next summer, 2015, Nat McIntyre will be directing what we believe, I believe. Oh, Deanna, I didn't give you a chance to comment. Do you want to talk about
love
as you
to.
like? Yes, please do.
Okay.
I'm moving into next year already.
All right,
Deanna's going to comment on as you like it.
on
Yeah,
this
before we
scene.
get too far away from it.
Can everyone hear me? All right, great. All right. First, I would just love to say I'm so excited to be able to see that again and how wonderful that production was. I don't know if anyone else was there at Shakespeare in the Park, but yeah. And I thought about sort of summarizing what's happening here, but I do think the actors make it so clear, and it feels sort of silly as an academic to summarize when the actors, really good actors, know what they're saying better than any academic can tell you what they're saying. But I particularly like this scene because it shows us this kind of dynamic between these two characters, Rosalind and Celia, that's one of my favorite things about Shakespeare's plays. There aren't a lot of women, of course, in Shakespeare because the women were all played by men, as I'm sure most of you know. And so we have a nice little joke there at the end when Rosalind decides to dress as a man, dress as what she actually is. And there are a number of other relationships that we've seen in some of the plays. Emilia for Desdemona, for instance, and Hermione, Paulina for Hermione in The Winter's Tale, where they really have an incredibly close bond, these two women. And these two in particular are so interested in sport. That's what I really like about this pair. They've just watched a wrestling match, which is, when did this become sport for ladies, is sort of one of the comments. And I just wanted to point out, because I think there's a little bit of a theme running through all of these monologues that has something to do with why watching Shakespeare is so important. And that's that Celia here, in the very beginning of the play, talks about being mad without reasons, right? And then Rosalind is asking the Duke why she is banished. She says, "Yet your mistrust cannot make me a traitor. Tell me whereon the likelihood depends." Why? Give me a reason why this has happened. And so they're really interested in sort of figuring out here exactly what the basis of these actions are. And that's a problem in a lot of Shakespeare's plays. We have a lot of unmotivated, particularly angry men who cause trouble at the beginning, like the Duke here. And so when Rosalind decides to dress as Ganymede, Jove's page, a boy Jove falls in love with in Ovid's Metamorphoses, which all of the sort of middle class, upper middle class men in Shakespeare's period were familiar with. He brings Ganymede up to the heavens, and Ganymede sort of becomes his cupbearer, his closest friend, and becomes something that he wasn't. He was a mortal boy, and now he becomes a god. And we have another kind of disguise here. So that kind of interest in seeming and disguise and performing is one of the concerns that we see very early on in this play. Thanks, yeah.
You know, theater is so collaborative, and what is a thrill as a director is to pull together a team of people. Everybody brings their knowledge and their experience and their ideas and their creativity, and that's what makes theater so awesome. So it's so much fun to have a scholar's perspective at the table. It helps really give us more depth and understanding to what we're doing, and we can put that into the show and hopefully bring it to you. I do want to bring Nat out, so what I jumped ahead to next summer is we will be presenting what we believe, Robert and I believe, I hope I'm speaking truly, will be the premier professional production of Henry V in Nashville, Tennessee. Because we looked all the way back to when Edwin Booth was here in the 1800s. We could not find a professional production of Henry V. So email me if I'm wrong, but we think next summer, 2015, will be the professional premiere of Henry V, Shakespeare's play, here in Nashville, Tennessee. So Nat McIntyre is directing. Do you still have your mic on, Nat?
Do I have my mic on? Yes, I do. Thank you.
You want to stand in the light. And
Yeah,
so
great.
I've just asked Nat to just give us a little teeny taste of how he's going to be approaching the play for next summer.
I'll give you a very teeny taste. I know with Nashville Shakespeare, one of my favorite things about them is they don't just pick a concept because it's fun or they think it will be exciting to see or because they want to dress people in astronaut uniforms or something like that. They pick concepts based off of what they think will help to lift the themes of the play. And so when we were talking about Henry V, I originally talked to Denise about possibly setting it in the Civil War. So that is where we have decided to set it. And we have Robert Hicks, who is the author of Widow of the South, on board with us to consult with us. And in talking with him, one of the things I've gotten most from him is him talking about to go back and to make the changes in our country that we need to make or that we want to make, we really need to go back to that time and have discussions about hard things that are tough for us to talk about at that time. I think Nashville is the perfect city to do it because having grown up in the Northeast, having spent time on the West Coast, having spent a lot of time in the South, Nashville is the only place I've ever lived where people still have to find a way to speak to each other politically because there are so many different kinds of people here. You have industry artists, you have old money, you have new money, you have everything you could possibly imagine here. So if you just, I remember how surprised I was the first time I saw someone make a statement that somebody else thought was ignorant or over the top, and then they talked about it. I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. So I think that this is the perfect city to go back and ask those questions in. So I'm very excited to set it in the Civil War, and that's all you get to know for now. Great. For me. So thank you. Yeah.
We'll see more of him in a second. So, so that's Shakespeare in the Park. In 2008, what?
Did you want to make a comment about the concept?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, we got to move on. We have so much to talk about and so little time. In 2008, we were invited, the Nashville Shakespeare Festival was invited by Belmont University to be the professional theater in residence in their brand new, beautiful 300-seat Trout Theater, right on Belmont Boulevard near all those wonderful restaurants, and huzzah, we had a winter home. So it's so exciting for us to be able to perform indoors, first of all, in a focused environment. But the main thing, it affords us 10 a.m. matinees for students. So our first production was Hamlet in 2008. It was very enthusiastically received by the schools and teachers. And we are currently, the program has grown. We book at about 95 to 100% of those 10 a.m. matinees, and that 5% is usually because of snow. So this year, this coming winter, Lipscomb University invited us to present Winter Shakes in their Collins Auditorium, which is a much, much larger space than the Trout. So we are going to take advantage of being able to offer up to 2,000 more students tickets and the opportunity to see our winter show by playing 3 weeks at the Trout Theater and then moving for 1 more week, 5 more performances to Lipscomb University's Collins Auditorium. So, and I love that greater collaboration with our partner universities locally. So, I think that's all I have to say about Winter Shakes this coming, yes. What's most important to me about winter Shakes is that with the focus, with the indoor venue, we can really focus on the language and the characters. And students and everybody really can feel the power of the poetry and see the humanity of the characters and recognize the relevance of these stories that were written 400 years ago, because it is so up close and personal in this indoor venue. So earlier this year, Nat McIntyre played Iago to Eddie George's Othello. Eddie George, when he retired from football, decided to become an actor and came to me and he said, I want to do Shakespeare. I said, you have to audition. He did. He was brilliant. We cast him as Julius Caesar in 2012. He loved the experience. We loved him, invited him back to play Othello. So Nat is going to share with you one of Iago's monologues, Iago, the evil genius, who uses honesty as a tool of manipulation. And as soon as he gets people to trust him, he takes advantage of their vulnerability. So in this monologue, it's right at the beginning of the play, Act 1, Scene 1, Iago is talking to Rodrigo, a really good friend of his that he's extorting and he later murders, and the audience. And so this is Iago. Nat?
3 great ones of the city, in personal suit, to make me his lieutenant, off caps to him. And by the faith of men, I know my price. I'm worth no worse a place. But he, as loving his own pride and purposes, evades them. For certes, says he, I have already chose my officer. And what is he? Forsooth, a great arithmetician, one Michael Cassio, that never set a squadron in the field, nor the division of a battle knows. Mere prattle without practice is all his soldiership. But he had the election. He, in good time, must his lieutenant be. And I, of whom his eyes had seen the proof, at Rhodes, at Cyprus, and on other grounds, I, God bless the mark, his moreship's sergeant. But, sir, content you. I follow him to serve my turn upon him. We cannot all be masters, nor all masters cannot be truly followed. It is as sure as you are Rodrigo. Were I the Moor, I would not be Iago. In following him, I follow but myself. Heaven is my judge, not I for love or duty, but seeming so for my peculiar end. For when my outward actions doth demonstrate the native act and figure of my heart in compliment extern, 'tis not long after, but I will wear my heart upon my sleeve for doves to peck at. I am not what I am.
Thanks, Nat. Deann?
Yeah.
Comments?
So, you can see some of the same themes working here, too. Othello is a later play, so As You Like It's usually placed around 1599, about the same time that Romeo and Juliet was written, and this is the end of Queen Elizabeth's reign, so people in England are a little worried about what's going to happen when the monarchy changes. Remember, Shakespeare has been through a great deal of religious turmoil in his life as a result of changing preferences for religion as the monarchs changed. And so England's worried that when a new monarch comes to power, as one will in 1603, around the time that this play is written, that there will be another change in kind of religious policy. And so you can see at the very beginning of the first monologue, there is, and toward the end more so, there is this kind of interest in whether or not you are what you seem, right? Can someone, by looking at you, know what you feel, think, believe inside? And I think Shakespeare wrestling with those questions is one of the reasons why these plays are still so relevant. You see that happening here, too. Iago starts by talking about how honest knaves who serve honestly end up getting the short end of the stick. right? Whereas those who seem not be, and this is another thing that Hamlet, a play written around this time, around the same time as Othello, also focuses on. Seeming shows up over and over again in that play. Those who just seem to act for love and duty line their coats. And peasants in this period, they didn't own anything more expensive than their clothing. And actors knew this because clothing was an expensive prop, right? So if they're lining their coats, they're doing very well for themselves. So Iago here is deciding to play on that tension between seeming and being, right? In this particular monologue.
Yay. I know, it's just amazing to me how relevant these plays are. Upcoming this winter, January 2015, January 8th through the 31st, we will be presenting Twelfth Night, which is such a beautiful, romantic, lush comedy. One of Shakespeare's funniest, I think, most romantic, so charming. I'm directing. It's very fairy tale. It's going to be just a lot of fun, just kind of tension release. In the darkest part of winter, we'll light a little flame and we'll call it Twelfth Night. So as with almost all of our plays, there will be original music played by the composer live for every performance on stage. So it's an incorporate part of what we do is music. We're Nashville Shakespeare Festival, and we really celebrate that. You will see a combination of old, familiar professional actors and brand new, up-and-coming actors, and one of our newest and brightest is Santiago Sosa, who just moved here this year. We were fortunate enough to have him in As You Like It, and he will be playing the melancholy Duke Orsino. He is here to share just a little appetizer of this delicious production that we are going to be offering in January for you. This is Act 1, Scene 1 of Twelfth Night. This is how the play begins. Santiago.
If music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess of it, that surfeiting the appetite may sicken and so die. That strain again, it had a dying fall. Oh, it came o'er my ear like the sweet sound that breeze upon a bank of violets, stealing and giving odor. Enough. No more. 'Tis not so sweet now as it was before. Oh, spirit of love, how quick and fresh art thou, that, notwithstanding thy capacity, receiveth as the sea, not enters there of what validity and pitch soe'er, but falls into abatement and low price. So full of shapes is fancy that it alone is high fantastical.
Thank you, Santiago. You're excellent. All he needs is a little love. And Viola shows up in the very next scene. Deann?
Yeah. So one thing that's interesting about seeing these three pieces juxtaposed is where you have this kind of anxiety about irrationality, about what can't be rationally known or perceived. In both of the previous two scenes, what you have here is Orsino who just desires to desire, and desire is this incredibly irrational thing. And I think that attitude is one of those is one of the things that makes this play a comedy, right? That that you can't know is actually something we can play with. And Shakespeare even does this in language in this play. Well, he does it with language all the time, but here with the names of the main characters. So you have Malvolio, Viola, and Olivia, all of whose names are anagrammatically interchanged. So how can you even tell the difference between the characters in some ways? This is just one of the most beautiful, I think, passages of poetry in Shakespeare generally. And again, when he sort of gets to the crescendo of this piece, so full of shapes is fancy, is imagination, right? Imagination, this thing that is fueled by desire in some ways and very irrational in other ways, is alone high fantastical. It's the thing that generates what we see here.
Super. Do you have any more comments you'd like to offer at this time, Deann?
Nat made me think of something, but I think I'll bring it back up at the end. Well, I'll go ahead and say it now. So another thing, when Nat was talking about how hard it is to talk to people sometimes about important issues, in some ways this is what these plays are getting at. This is what they're enabling us to do, right? And bringing up this difficulty of knowing what someone believes or what someone is instead of what they seem to be. I think one of the answers Shakespeare is giving us here is that performance and art is one of the ways that we can begin to know what someone is in some way, what they think, what they believe, and what they act.
Awesome. I would like to turn it over to Nettie Kraft, our education director. We do, as I said, the mission is to educate and entertain. So everything entertaining we do is educational to some degree, and we really strive that everything educational we do is entertaining. So, Nettie?
Hi, everybody. Hello, happy Lunchbox. I have the best job in the festival. Don't tell anyone else because I don't want them coming after my job. I get to go into schools, I get to go into businesses, and I get to make learning and activities around Shakespeare fun. What a blessing. So we do several different kinds of education. My favorite, of course, is actually the workshops for students. We go into schools. Sometimes they are centered around our winter Shakespeare play. So 12th night workshops are coming up. So if you know a school that's going to come see the show and you want to donate a workshop, you give me a call. We go into the school, we want to make it active. Learning and reading is so crucial to human beings, period, but especially to the students of Tennessee. And if you can get into a classroom and teach, get people up on their feet, make an activity out of reading, especially when it comes to plays, which were meant to be performed, you can often take away some of the stigma of Shakespeare, and you can make it fun. And maybe those students then will think about reading as something that's actually good for them and makes them a happier person. Those are my favorite to do. However, just this last Monday, I had an amazing workshop for an HR director at an insurance company out in Brentwood. And I tell you what, we did a diversity and harassment training. I know you all have to sit through those about once a year or two, right? Okay. Well, you know how amazingly entertaining those videos are. Not. So I would invite you, the next time you know one of those monstrosities is coming down the pipe at you, to consider calling us, because we can create a workshop for your company, your business, your agency that can make that fun. And I think that the learning becomes something about it that is so much more active than passively watching a video of people saying and doing really inappropriate things in the workplace. So let's do those inappropriate things in theater and then teach what not to do in real life. So we also do CLEs. So speaking of wonderful things, a CLE is, oh my gosh, the acronym. Continuing legal education. In order for the wonderful lawyers in our world to maintain their licenses, they need to educate themselves every year on things like ethics, communication, leadership, all that kind of stuff. So we do those and we have a great time. Again, let's make learning fun. And let's use Shakespeare, as I'm sure he would love for us to do, to further the study of humanity. I'm going to make this real quick. Normally, I would do a get up and get out of your seat kind of game. Now I know y'all are working hard and you just had a great lunch. So we're going to do something really quick in our seat called the O game. In Shakespeare, one of the things we like to make fun of is the fact that he always says, oh, oh, okay, and we all assume that you all have to say, oh, kind of like that, right? And I always love pointing out to students that we say oh all the time. We say oh all the time in everyday vernacular. So I'm going to ask for a little bit of participation here. What I would say is I'm going to give you a scenario, literally a scene, a set of given circumstances, and I would like you to say oh in a way that sounds natural for you if you were in that particular scenario. So I will give you this as a cue, and let's find a fun scenario. Okay, you woke up Monday morning in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was really, really cold, and you open your front door and you say, excellent. Okay. You are, let's use the front door. I like that. So the doorbell rings, and it's Ed McMahon there. Or not. Sorry about that. It's the Publishers Clearinghouse, and they have one of those big fake checks for you for $1 bajillion, and you say, there we go. Awesome. So, this is some of the fun stuff that we get to do to make language active. It's active. It's an effective tool. So I'm so excited about that. We do camps, spring break and fall break, because Lord knows that these parents and students need something to do for that week instead of just go to the mall. So we do interactive camps. We do fall break, which is geared towards our Winter Stakes Shakespeare show, and then we do spring break, sometimes geared towards what's coming up in the summer. But basically, it's a way, again, to make Shakespeare fun, to take some of the pressure off the parents, to find activities for students to do, and to find those students who, hey, maybe they're going to end up the next Santiago. Maybe they're going to end up the next Emily. Maybe they're going to end up the next Denise. So we do these camps. We had 2 this year. I think I'm just going to explain them really quickly. Santiago, our wonderful Orsino. They can come out? Okay, we have time. So Santiago, why don't you come out and explain? We did a wonderful workshop in conjunction with Casa Azafran, which is an amazing, amazing organization that Nashville has. So really quickly, can you explain what you did?
Right, so a lot of the students that would come in were from different areas, Latin American community, and basically what we did was, it was also to be very inclusive with the parents. So we did a lot of exercises in both English and Spanish. We studied the play Twelfth Night, and we studied different versions of the speech that I had just performed in both English and Spanish, because it's also important for a lot of these students who are raised by parents who Spanish is their first language, that actually don't speak Spanish. They understand it, and so to let them know that this is a valuable tool to have in life, being very fluent in both English and Spanish. We learned to do the text, and a lot of them were young kids, so we did a lot of different exercises back and forth of playing with the text, playing with different pieces, and doing just a little bit of scene work, and definitely playing a lot of games, and it was great.
About how many students, Santi?
I believe it was about 25, 26,
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit, and we had a really great little studio space to work in at Casa Azafran, and they seem to enjoy it. They seem to want to come back again next time we have a chance to.
Excellent. Awesome. So in conjunction with that, we had another workshop going in tandem at the same time that Nat taught for us, two of my favorite people, and that was at the Nashville Public Library downtown, the most beautiful building in our city, probably. And will you tell us just a little bit about what that was all like?
Yes, I will. We had, I believe, 10 students coming from many different backgrounds. We had some students from Title I schools. We had some homeschool students. We had pretty much every kind of background I guess you could remember, which is what I love to do. I love to teach that kind of group where you get them all together. The library was a perfect place to do it, sort of a central place. The biggest thing for me is what I want to do with students is try to find themes that they can identify with, so that you sort of you can just trick them into not worrying about the language, and then they're in there and they're into it by mistake, and they love it. So, but if you just take just Santi's monologue, what he did earlier, that would be a monologue we may start with, and then I would say, well, what words stick out to you that you know? And they would say usually food, love, excess, appetite, sick, and die. And then those are 6 words that any teenager can have an opinion about. So, so you start there, and then all of a sudden they start to just realize that the themes of this play are very, very simple, actually, and then can become much more complicated when you discuss them. and that's what you're supposed to do. So basically we did that. We got these students together. They're talking about things that adults even have trouble talking about. And by the end of the week, with just 1 week of, I guess, 5 hours a day, 4 hours a day, we were able to put on enough scenes that you could really see the whole arc of the play, and they were memorized. And this is something I think students would not have thought they'd be able to do coming into the week. But if you take, it's the same thing we do with the concepts in the plays, if you take a little bit of that fear away by putting them in a familiar context that they can understand, adults or students, then all of a sudden Shakespeare really comes to life, and you can see it for what it is. So that's what we did there.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We do our best to offer these workshops at a very affordable rate and or sometimes through grants, thank you. We can offer them for free to certain students. Great. Theater Bug. We have a wonderful theater company in town called the Theater Bug. It's in East Nashville, run by our lovely friend Corey Lamel. And we do also sometimes camps there, and it's a great space. She actually takes quite young students, so if you know of anybody who might be a blossoming little theater bug, we did last summer, I got to direct Midsummer Night's Dream. We did an abridged Midsummer Night's Dream, and my husband, who is rather picky about theater, actually said it was his favorite, no offense, but his favorite Midsummer Night's Dream he's ever seen. I can attest those students grappled with that language and those roles, and they had a great time. So John Royal, who also directs and is a teaching artist for us, he has also just finished a Theater Bug camp as well, where they performed monologues and scenes. These kids are fearless, so let's do what we can to support them. Thank you.
Yes! So we really have so much fun. I'm gonna just riffle through really quickly. We have a lot of additional programming happening in 2015. We, at the Downtown Public Library, we have a program called Shakespeare Aloud. We will be kicking that off for a third round of reading every play Shakespeare wrote, one play at a time, the first Saturday of every month. So the kickoff for that is the first Saturday in April. Come join us. You'll be able to say, I've read all the plays Shakespeare wrote after just several Saturdays. Many months, but it's a great time. Also, we have the second annual High School Shakespeare Festival coming up in April. It is it's when as many high schools as can participate come together for one day and create one production all together. And we offer workshops for the students during the day, and then that night they all come together and play together. So exciting. Our apprentice company, we do apprentice company training, 12 to 14 young people audition, 100 audition. We choose 12 to 14 every year and give them training. Then they participate in the Summer Shakespeare in the Park. That'll be our 17th year to offer that training. And then we are also pencil partners with other schools around Nashville. So we are doing all that we can to make Shakespeare happen here. How, you say? I would love to give the floor to Ricky and Robert, and they are briefly going to explain to you how we do all this, how we happy few, we band of brothers make Shakespeare happen.
Well, it takes tremendous effort throughout the year, of course, to fundraise and to coordinate all relationships necessary to make all this programming work. I'll just quickly go over some of the support that we receive from the community, from our community partners. Metro Parks, of course, has been our partner for Shakespeare in the Park since the beginning. Also, the Belmont University has been our partner for Winter Shakespeare as well. This year, for the first time, Lipscomb University is providing their Collins Theater for a week of performances for us as well. And these are all in-kind donations to the work that we do. We also receive a tremendous amount of support for advertising for our shows. Comcast Cable gives us quite a lot of spots. We have a White Hart Incorporated who produces our TV spots. We have pro bono graphic design and print ads as well. We also receive a good amount of discounts and that sort of thing on the things we need for our program, such as lighting and printing and all that sort of thing, from wonderful businesses here in town. Ricky, did you want to talk about the actual dollar funding?
Sure. First of all, I just want to recognize, I see some very familiar faces out in the audience today. One of our major sources of revenue and support for the Nashville Shakespeare Festival is you. So to all of our individual donors, I want to thank you so very much for what you do to support the festival. No gift is too small, and every gift matters. We receive and are
No
able...
gift is too large either, Ricky.
No
gift is too large
It's too
either.
large, right. Some of those gifts come in the form of grants. Grants are competitive. There is a finite pool of money, whether those grants are public support or private foundations. So we are always seeking ways to give back and make the very best use of every dollar that we receive. And I think today you probably have a good idea of how much this small but mighty company does in the community. We have individual donations. Those come to us through donations at Shakespeare in the Park. Shakespeare in the Park is free with a suggested donation. Many of our folks who come out to Shakespeare in the Park are very generous, and they allow anyone who would like to see Shakespeare in the Park able to experience that because of their generosity. We also have annual fundraisers that accompany both of our shows. For people who want to give back a little bit more to the festival and have capacity, we have the Royal Box during Shakespeare in the Park, and we have the Royal Package, which is part of our Winter Shakes. And information about both of those is in the information in the lobby. So please take some information with you, and don't forget us during the holiday season. We make a really nice Christmas or holiday gift. So we also have what we call our winter and spring mailing, where we send to about, I'd say, between 2,000 and 3,000 people and ask them to consider making a direct cash donation to the festival. We try and work very hard to use email and social media and Emma. Mailing is a very expensive way to try to raise funds, so we try as many different ways as we can to approach people and keep the costs there to a minimum. We also have tickets and fees. Our tickets, I think Denice began today by saying accessibility. We are accessible, and even in our winter show, our ticket fees are very, very reasonable and cover just a small portion of the cost of these beautiful productions, and certainly make the matinees available for our youth. So we also have workshops. Nettie talked to you about those workshops that they do. Actually, our CLE workshops that we do are a result of the corporate donations that we receive, because all of the lawyers who do the work that make our CLEs available to us donate their time. So that's proven to be something very, very good for us. And then, of course, we have our corporate sponsorships. So if you know of a small business, if you know of a large business, if you know of anyone who you think might want to give to the Shakespeare Festival, my contact information is on the literature in the lobby. Please don't hesitate to send them our way. We would absolutely love to talk to them about those opportunities. One of our other really important sources of support are volunteers, and Denice is going to talk to all of you about our volunteers.
I'll try to not cry when I do it, because I get so moved. Obviously we are just a few little people here, and we would be nowhere without a huge core of volunteers that we have. We have students. These two beautiful women here standing with Robert in this picture are Belmont students, or actually Leah is a Harpeth Hall student, and Casey was graduated from Belmont. So we have student assistants. We also have everybody and anybody. Anita Reed up in the top right corner there is an HCA employee, and she is our volunteer coordinator, which is a huge job, and she is just is an invaluable help to us. But we have up to 100, right? Up to 100 volunteers a year help us with ushering and selling concessions and even data entry. We do a survey every summer, and the good news is we get thousands of surveys, and the bad news is we have to enter all of that to really get the information to understand who our audience is. So we have volunteers on multiple levels that we are really, really grateful for. And our volunteer board, I see a few board members here today. Thank you for being here. They help us, advise us, counsel us, guide us, and hopefully have a great time doing it, because if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. We have some winners of tickets, do we, Kristen? Thank you. If you
I
didn't
should say,
win
while
today,
we're at
yeah.
the volunteer slide, if you do want to volunteer with us, go to our website, nashvilleshakes.org. There's a volunteer page, or if you can remember, just volunteers@nashvilleshakes.org. Send us an email, and we'll get you involved with working at the productions and helping out with everything else that you might be able to help with.
You must be present to win.
Is Marion Williams still here? Marion? Yes! You have won a pair of tickets to see Twelfth Night. You can choose your date. Yay, she won, she won. Terrific. See, Kristen. We have just a couple minutes here for questions. For anybody on the panel, questions that you have, information we didn't cover?
Can I ask how many of you have been to see one of our shows?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Oh, thank you.
Fantastic. Any questions for us? Anything at all, really? We're happy to answer. Yes. How do I choose what we do? I listen to what the audience, I take requests on napkins. People say, you know, I would really, really love to see a production of, because we haven't done it in a while or something. So it comes from the community. It comes from what I find is relevant, what's happening for us in this community at this time. Also teachers, we do at the end of our winter shakes every year, we do a survey. And the teachers, we say, what do you want to see next? And so we're doing Twelfth Night because so many teachers actually requested it. And winter 2016 will be King Lear, because that is the one play that all the teachers want to see.
Yeah,
I've
we're not
avoided
quite
it.
sure why. But I mean, it's a great play. It's one of my favorites, but it's not in curriculum. It's great.
It's a really difficult play to do, and so cruel in its very spine that I have avoided it. But I'm saying, okay, you want to see it? We can do it. So we're stepping up to it. But it's a dialogue.
It's a play about aging and evil kids, right? So maybe that.
We actually use King Lear a lot for leadership workshops, or management actually, because we see King Lear is not the best manager. And we also see in that play the archetypes of the flatterers and the suck-ups, you know, how his daughters flatter him. It's a really, really great demo for management workshops. So. But that's how we do. It's a dialogue. We are here for you, the community. We really are. We see this as a community service. It's not like, hey, we're going to do Shakespeare, come see us. We're like, we want to share this with you because we really feel like what Hamlet said, you hold the mirror up to nature and you show your community the very best they can be and the very worst they can be, and allow them to make the choice which they want to be. So it's all about creating a more rich environment in which we all live, community.
I'm just curious, I know all of you probably have to go back to work, so before we leave, can we play the O game one more time?
Sure, Nettie.
Great, so it's 12:55, and you have to go back to work.
Oh,
Y'all are great. That was great. Oh, man. Cool.
Super. Well, any other questions? Any other burning questions? We're so, so glad that you came and spent this hour with us, and we hope to see you in our theaters and in the park, and we hope to see you in your environments as well. So thanks for coming today. Thank you.